stars Emily Blunt and Melissa Simmons. Those of you, okay. I don't know if I'll be able to keep that up for a whole entire video. So technically, explaining the synopsis of this movie will go into spoiler territory if you haven't seen the first movie. So if you haven't seen the first movie, then I'm gonna have to say that this review is probably not for you. So go check out the first movie, because if I talk about the synopsis, it will go into spoilers, because this movie takes place exactly after the first movie. So The Quiet Place Part 2 follows the Abbott family. The Abbott family journey into the terrors of the outside world, into the unknown, and then they realize that the creatures that are hunting them by sound are not the only threat. If you make a certain noise, come on! Like, I love the world that John Krasinski created, because he's the director of the first movie. He also starred in the first movie. I mean, he starred in this movie as well, but it was more like a cameo, and it took place like in the intro of the second movie. John Krasinski directed the hell out of the intro. It was all one take, and it showed the origin of how the creatures came to our world and how it came to be. I absolutely love that concept and love that premise, and it just brings that haunting feeling, like how they came in and to what it's like now. And these things are bulletproof, they have heavy armory, they can't be killed by regular bullets, they're resistant to fire, electricity. I mean, the only way to weaken them is to have the sound frequency just right. It'll throw off the sounds in their ears and makes them vulnerable, and therefore makes them easy to kill. They took that, that way of killing them, and they elevated into this second movie. The scale and the scope of that intro was totally grand, and then it goes into our characters in the present day, or future apocalyptic times, and it follows the Abbott family, and it follows Melissa Simmons. But I want to say that Emily Blunt's character didn't have much of a huge role than she did in the first movie, but she had a substantial role. But most of the screen time revolved around her daughter, Millicent, who's being played by Melissa Simmons, and I feel like her character had the most screen time to shine. And there was this story arc revolving around her character where she feels compelled to do this big thing and go out of her way, something that her mother doesn't want to do. Therefore, in the movie, that's where Cillian Murphy's character comes in, and his character elevated the movie much more, because his character was interesting, fascinating. He has a certain amount of guilt with him, and he's dealing with that throughout the film, and you understand his motivations throughout the movie. And when you're watching the movie, like I said, like a certain sound, certain elements, if you make a certain noise, like a small little tap, they'd be coming through that window right now and kill me in the next 5 seconds. So I'm just like that. I really love that. Like the film was quiet, but I did like the score of the movie. The score had that little emotional feel to it, where you listen to the music, your heart resonates and you feel it. And then when you watch the movie, that it's anxiety driven, because there's no sound. And when you're watching it in the theater, the experience is much more grand, because when people are eating popcorn, the movie is silent. Everyone in the theater is silent. And then when person eat that popcorn, you hear the crunch, and you're like, shh. You actually feel captured into this world, and you feel invested with these characters, because what they do in the first movie, they took all the emotion, and they use that emotion in this movie to elevate all the characters from both a physical standpoint and an emotional standpoint. Good, and this movie does a really good job of elevating the character development for each character, like individually. Like, these characters get progressed. Each scene that you're in, it has that anxiety-driven feel, which I absolutely love, because that's the concept they used in the first movie, but they elevated even more. This movie is 1 hour and 39 minutes, and the other movie's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I believe. And I feel like this movie should have been longer. I wanted like more with this world. I wanted more with the characters. But for what we got, I still was satisfied. That leads into one particular flaw I have to point out, and that has to deal with the plot itself. Remember in the beginning I said that they realized that the creatures are not the only threat. I didn't like the execution revolving around that threat, because if you think about it, it happened in the third act, and it don't happen for one scene, one specific scene. So I just felt like, why was that included into the plot? Because it wasn't impactful from a writing standpoint. I didn't feel anything. Actually, it was anticlimactic, if you ask me. I feel like that scene could have been taken out. It almost felt like A Quiet Place / The Walking Dead. That's where the execution fell flat for me. Other than that, I did like this movie. This movie was pretty good. It's not as good as the first movie, but it's still great. One of the best movies of the year, definitely in my eyes. So I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a Christian Bale Batman. Definitely go watch it in theaters. You will have a great experience. This is a great movie. You will enjoy. Go watch it with your friends. So guys, that's my review of Quiet Place 2. What are your thoughts on A Quiet Place 2? Comment below. Let's talk about it, and I'll see you guys in my next review. In my next review, I'm going to review Gorilla. And also, I'm going to review The Conjuring 3. So stay tuned for those reviews. You have been warned. Till then, ciao.